Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I picked 5 shows that I like, that I feel like, they were canceled, and I'd love for them to come back in some shape or form. Preferably in new season format, not something like, oh, come back in a movie to finish off everything format, which kind of references something I'm going to talk about in this video, but nevertheless, I'll get to that soon enough. Number 1 on the list is kind of freshly, a show that kind of got freshly canceled, was Dark Matter, which is kind of a little upsetting because I really like this series. If you're unfamiliar with Dark Matter is about, basically it's a science fiction show about like 6 people, technically 6 people and an android, wake up on a ship with no memories, and basically they end up finding out they're space criminals essentially, and it turns into this whole long adventure trying to figure out who, well, first finding out who they are, and about, because the series progresses, you learn little bits, more pieces here and there about people's past and stuff like that. The show was canceled this year, but like back in August after the completion of its 3rd season, which super sucks because obviously like the show gets better and better with every episode and every season, especially season 3. I'm not going to spoil anything. They were setting up some big events and big ideas in season 3 that we'll never get to see anything come about from them. Once again, like, this seems like the type of show that I want somebody at some point in time to pick it up. I prefer more than just 1 season, at least 2 seasons. Like I said, I don't know if 1 season is going to be enough to do a lot of the stuff they brought up, because at least one thing they brought up was basically like, there's basically a breakdown of like, oh yeah, someone went to the future, and it's like, yeah, we kind of know certain events are going to happen, which, like I said, plus there's a whole thing that was like set up at the very end of season 3 that's like, oh yeah, and this big thing happens, and there's other smaller storylines that, weren't really tackled near the end. They were kind of brought up throughout the season and never really brought up again, so obviously they play a big part in the next season. It's a lot of big stuff happening all at once. I don't know if they would be able to settle that in 1 season, at least 2. So it's fresh. Like I said, it got canceled in August, so I mean, I guess there's always time for someone to pick it up later on down the road. Number 2 on my list is another sci-fi show, which is also a science fiction show, but also talking about the channel on Sci-Fi. It's a show, Alphas. If you're unfamiliar with Alphas, is basically, it's been a while, but basically it was people with like exceptional abilities. It's not like crazy out there like fantasy magic abilities. There is like a science fictional way of approaching it. It's almost like you can explain them from a scientific perspective. Like one particular character, I forgot her name, but she had the ability to, she had enhanced senses to all 5 of her senses were like crazily enhanced. Another character, basically, she could make you do whatever she wanted you to. Another character, chemicals in his brain would basically give him superhuman strength, so on and so forth, stuff like that. It is another show that was canceled only after its 2nd season, which its 2nd season ends off on like the hugest cliffhanger, and you never get a resolution for that. It's been a couple years. The show got canceled back in, what, 2012, so like, obviously it's very unlikely. It's a show that I really like. I would recommend to people, but there's that whole aspect of like, well, the fact is it got canceled after its 2nd season, and it kind of like, it leaves you on such a cliffhanger that I'm like, I'm not sure if it's really worth watching or not, just because of that said reason. Which is, like I said, it's such a good show. There's a lot of interesting concepts and stuff behind it, especially what they were doing in season 2, and especially like how it ends on said huge cliffhanger. So number 3 on the list is a TV show called Awake. Now Awake, I've kind of brought up in, I definitely brought it up in a podcast. I don't think I've really referenced it in videos. So if you're unfamiliar with Awake, is basically, it's kind of like it's purely a crime drama, but kind of has like a supernatural fantasy element to it. Basically, there's this cop who basically was in an accident, and after this accident, his life splits into 2 different realities. One reality where his wife died but his son lived, and in another reality where his son died but his wife lived. And basically he goes to sleep in one reality and wakes up in another, and bounces back and forth like that, and living a dual life in both realities. And basically there's kind of a mystery behind like what happened to him and his family that kind of plays a role in the story. You never 100% find out why his reality split like that. I mean, to be fair, the show got canceled after its 1st season, at the end of its 1st season, which is a really good series, like I said, with a really interesting concept. I won't spoil the ending for you just in case you were like, oh, I'm gonna check it out. It has a nice resolution, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, this thing happens. It just leads to more questions. Like I said, the whole like aspect of why it happens never really gets explained. Number 4 on the list is an ABC show called Forever. Essentially, Forever is about a medical examiner who is basically immortal. Like, his immortality has this weird thing where it's like when he dies, he ends up in one specific body of water that he surfaces from naked. But that's basically how it, like, he has, like, if you're familiar with the show Misfits, kind of spoilers, but Nathan, like how Nathan would die, like he died and then come back to life. It's that type of immortality, like I said, except he winds up in a body of water. And basically it's diving into his past, how he came to be where he is right now, and how, you know, he kind of keeping his immortality a secret and helping solve crimes, essentially. So it's kind of like similar to Awake, kind of like a fantasy supernatural crime drama. Sadly, the show was canceled after its first season. I don't remember how long its first season was. I feel like it was slightly on the longer end of things, maybe like 16 or 18 episodes, but I could be wrong about that. It might even been 20 something, but the show's been off air for a while. It was like 2014/2015 when the show happened, which, like I say, it really bummed me out because of what, like, there was kind of similar to Awake. There's a lot of stuff that was kind of answered, but at the same time it just wasn't either. It's never really explained, like, oh, how the character's name is Henry, how he got his abilities. They even threw in the concept of that's another person named Adam who has the same abilities too, and that turns into a whole thing as well. It's just like, it ends on a like conclusive note of like, oh man, this happens, and then there's an interesting thing that happens at the end. It's like, oh wow, I would have loved to see what they would have done more with that, but it sadly wasn't meant to be. And number 5 is the Netflix series Sense8. Now, Sense8 is in this weird territory because the show was canceled, but there's this whole situation where Netflix is basically making a 2-hour finale that's coming out in 2018, which is weird to say that like it's far off because 2018 is like literally like 2 weeks away at this point in time of me recording this. But nevertheless, if you've never seen Sense8, you should really check it out. Fantastic series. I'll admit, like, it is slow, especially like in the first season, but it's like once you get into it, it starts getting going. It does a very good aspect that I feel like I don't really know any other show that does it, that basically the story is split up between 8 different characters. The stories kind of coincide, they're connected. Obviously, I won't go too far into it, but it's like each character, I feel like you can't help but kind of care about the story. Like, oh man, like this character's going through this, and he has this other character kind of help. It turns into a whole thing because like basically all 8 characters are in 8 different places around the world. Like I said, watch the show, you really, like, you know, it kind of explains things. It's a science fiction show because essentially everyone, their main characters, are telepathically connected. It's kind of like the whole gist of like the whole Sense8 situation. They're in fact called Sense8. That's the whole thing. But like I said, the show was canceled after its 2nd season, and like I said, there is the 2-hour finale, so there's that weird thing of like it is coming back, but this is kind of like a, because my biggest problem with this situation is because, and I said this before when I've talked about it, but it's not enough. Like basically this 2-hour finale is going to deal with a main overarching plot point that season 2 ended off with. That's about it. There's a lot of stuff that concepts and things that were introduced into season 2 that I'd like to see more of. There's storylines that I feel like they won't answer in that 2-hour finale. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll see certain storylines kind of play out this way, but I feel like the thing that happens at the end of season 2, I'm trying not to spoil it, but I feel like that's going to be the entire focus of the 2-hour finale. Just dealing with that main plot point to give some closure. I at the very least wanted one more season. I said it then and I'll say it again. At least one more season to clear everything up, because like so many people's storylines in certain regards, especially one character in particular, if you haven't, you might not mean it. It might not mean anything. Sun's storyline, because I feel like there's so much more to Sun's storyline that I like to get more time with. Once again, like I said, it's in that weird situation because I haven't seen the finale yet. So, but it's still that situation of like, at least one more season I feel like would really kind of wrap everything up. But 2-hour finale is all we kind of get. So, guess you have to live with that. So, I'm still feel the need to kind of add it on the list just because I feel like it's something that's kind of getting cut short. You know, so. But nevertheless, that brings this video to an end. Obviously, this is not all the canceled shows that I like. There are plenty more that I can, you know, make future videos about, which is actually super sad to think about that, but that's just kind of how things are. You know, not everything you like stays around forever and has a good, proper closure and ending, you know, so. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.